panel discussion, which is the BFSI panel discussion. Well, looking at the cybersecurity for the Middle East enterprises, the Middle East cybersecurity pre-COVID-19 market size is projected to grow for USD 16.1 billion in 2020 to USD 28.7 billion by 2025 at a compound annual growth rate of 12.2%, whereas the post-COVID-19 market size is projected to grow from USD 15.6 billion in 2020 to USD 29.9 billion by 2025, which is at a CAGR of 13.8% during the forecast period. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, now for our BFSI panel discussion on evolving cybersecurity trends and challenges faced in banking and finance sector. We're looking at talking about data auditing technologies and security validation, protecting sensitive customer data, effective ways to build cyber resilience, understanding security loopholes and preventing data breaching, how to balance cybersecurity and regulatory compliance. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for this, we've got our panelists. First up, Abdullah Faisal Biary, the CISO, United Cooperative Assurance, Saudi Arabia. Well, Mr. Abdul is the Chief Information Security Officer for the United Cooperation Assurance. He's somebody who's established the cybersecurity department from the scratch. Part of his duties include, but not limited to, developing and maintaining the cybersecurity strategies, policy, architecture, and risk management process. We're also joined by our panelist, A. Karthik, Chief Evangelist, ManageEngine, India. Well, Mr. Karthik is an enthusiastic and a passionate presenter, having presented ManageEngine solutions at over 200 plus destinations. He's somebody who has more than 15 plus years of experience in IT, and most of his time has been dedicated to promoting ManageEngine software. He's somebody who's been privileged to be a guest lecturer at the Caledonian College of Engineering, Oman, and at the National Institute of Ministry of Public Administration, Malaysia. We're also, ladies and gentlemen, joined by Umair Ahmad, the Manager Information Security and Risk Baker Tilly International, Bahrain. Well, Mr. Ahmad possesses a vast professional experience in multiple territories and diverse industries, ranging from banking, telecom, communications, oil and gas. He's somebody who's also an expert in the risk management and information security frameworks and business continuity management. So, ladies and gentlemen, also we're going to be joined by our other panelists, who's Aftab, Hasan, the Secretary General Insurance Business Group as well. So thank you so much, Mr. Hasan, for giving in your valuable time. Now, he's somebody who's a leader in the BFSI segment in the BFSI industry. And Mr. Hasan, we truly value your presence today. So he's somebody who's leading the way in the BFSI industry. Also, this entire conversation is going to be moderated by Asma, Kotb, the Senior Cybersecurity Analyst, ADIB Egypt. While Asma Kotb is passionate about cybersecurity and has a solid experience in the field due to her work in multiple positions that facilitated building up her knowledge, that besides her continuous hands-on experience in platforms like the Hack the Box and Wall N Hub. Asma holds a professional cybersecurity certificates that start from the CCNA Security to CEH and OSCP. So thank you so much to our entire panel discussion for being a part of this conversation today. We just request you now to please switch on your cameras and join us on the stage and screen of the World Cybersecurity Summit. Thank you so much. Well, what a great start to 2021 at TressCon Global. And we'd really like to thank you all for being a part of the World Cybersecurity Summit. With this, I'd now request our moderator to take it forth for the panel discussion. Asma, if you can hear us, we'd request you now to take forth in this discussion. Thank you so much, Umair. Thank you, Abdullah, for joining us today. Mr. Aftab, we request you to put on your cameras. Karthik as well, if you're joining us live. I'm sure everyone's coming from different parts of the world. Asma, I'd just like to pass it on to you. Thank you.
The host has stopped my video. I don't know why.
Okay, don't worry. We'll get that sorted. We would love to have you on the stage and screen.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for this great introduction and for introducing my guests. Also, I'd like to thank our all attendees for attending our World Cybersecurity Summit, MENA. I think, and I wish that this conference will be providing the attendees with the required information and helpful tips for securing their organizations more and reducing risks in their organizations. And first of all, I'm pretty sure that your introduction about my guests is very pretty and very and concluding their background and their organizations in cybersecurity. But I need to let them first of all to speak about their huge projects in cybersecurity in their organizations and speak more about their experience in this field. So starting with Mr. Abdullah.
Thank you, Asma, and thank you everyone from Triscom for this great event and for this opportunity. So a little about myself, I'm Abdullah Biary. I graduated in cybersecurity from the United States and the George Washington University. I've established cybersecurity departments from the initiative, such as in Salama, where we started with the policies, procedures, and standards, and we created the risk methodology, taking on to bringing in the solutions, next generation solutions, such as the firewalls, implementing SIM solutions, DLP, making sure all these top of the line solutions are well implemented and fully utilized. And that's a little about me.
Okay, Mr. Karthik, would you please join us and continue explaining or giving us more information about your experience in cybersecurity field? Mr. Karthik, the mic.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on this panel. In fact, the host, Bhavana, gave a very good introduction on myself. So I'm the Chief Technical Evangelist for ManageEngine, and I have over 20 years of experience in IT. And I started my career as a system administrator, and today I lead the ManageEngine suite of products for security-related solutions and for help desk, network monitoring, cloud management, and much more. So it's been a long journey, and I've gotten more years of experience in IT because of the product ranges that we have, starting from patch management to SIEM to identity access management and password management and much more. So it's been an interesting career for me so far.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Umair, would you please join us and tell us about your experience in the risk assessment or cybersecurity field?
Thank you, Asma. As you're aware, I'm Umair. It's been like almost 12 years I'm working in the field of information security, and I started my career from a bank, and then I moved on to the telecommunications sector, and then I also worked in oil and gas industry, and now I'm working as the manager in information security and risk with Baker Tilly International. I'm providing mainly the information security governance, risk and compliance services to many clients here in Bahrain. And I have my team stationed in multiple organizations around within Bahrain and also in the rest of the parts of the GCC. So this is a little bit about me.
Okay, thanks a lot for this. Mr. Aftab, would you please speak with us about your experience in the cybersecurity insurance and what projects you are leading or holding now? Mr. Aftab. Okay, I think there's an issue in Mr. Aftab's mic. So as we heard in the introduction, yes?
I'm okay.
Mr. Aftab?
Sorry for that. So what I was telling that I've been here in this part of the world for almost 3 decades is going to be in the Middle East, and having various positions before I turn into a professional entrepreneur. I understand the importance of cybersecurity because even I was invited by cybersecurity in a banking conference by Central Bank of UAE to speak there. My background has been in engineering, and then I started my career back home in India from Tata's. And if you guys know Tata has been institutions for many, including me. And then here in my sleeves, I have different companies. One of the company, which is a 30-year-old company, which is a very prominent insurance brokerage company, which is ARIA Insurance. So I'm the CEO of that company. I'm also chairman of Risk Exchange, which is in DIFC, which is a reinsurance broking company. And I'm also chairman of the company, which is Risk Exchange International in Singapore. And also I have an IT company. I'm also the chairman, which is A2R Solutions. So a bit of like, different verticals, which I'm managing. And at the same time, I'm blessed to be the Secretary General appointed on the board of Insurance Business Group, which is under the auspices of Dubai Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I think this much should be okay, or rather we can talk later.
Oh, okay, it's very nice, and thank you all. And according to this introduction, I think we will have like hot discussions and juicy answers for our questions today. And as we heard in the introduction, we will speak mainly or discuss about the most trending attack that come up with the pandemic issue that's covering the world now. Also, we will cover topics about cybersecurity and risk assessment, risk management inside our organizations, and taking tips and advices from our expertise about how to develop this risk management. Also, guidelines about how to reduce this. So let's start with the most common question that come up in every cybersecurity discussion about the most trending attacks that are happening now in the world as a result of the pandemic issue, and what is the effect of these attacks on the privacy of the organizations, and how did it affect the risks. So let's hear about this from Mr. Karthik. Please, would you please, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. So first of all, I would want to say that we did a survey. ManageEngine actually did a survey to find out what are the latest threats in the existing world, or in this world of digital transformation. So we started with phishing attacks having the highest percentage, followed by remote worker endpoint security. So wherein people have started to work from home, there are every chances that your workstation, your mobile device is being hacked, and the data is being stolen, and followed by cloud jacking and vulnerability. And we also found out that ransomware attacks are still prevalent, and deepfakes, which is a combination of AI and machine learning, and mobile malware, and 5G to Wi-Fi security vulnerability. So whenever your data is being transferred from 5G to Wi-Fi, that's when hackers intrude into your mobile devices and then steal the data. And similarly, insider threats. However protective we are, we still have to be careful about the threats which come from inside the organization. And the penultimate one was the unpatched security vulnerability. So there are a lot of devices in the organization, network devices, servers, and applications. So there are every chances that that administrators forget to patch all the devices at one go. So how do they how do they ensure that they patch all the devices? And finally, we came up with this data privacy. It's absolutely not in the order that we found out, but data privacy is still being the highest one on the threats to the organization. And what we identified was organizations have been quite a few number of organizations. I'm not saying all organizations. Quite a few organizations have been lethargic in understanding the security portfolio. They try to segregate. They try to remove security from IT. They actually treat it as a separate entity, which is actually not. So in fact, what you have to do is you have to consider it as a integrated component in IT, and then design the aspects for your customers or to your end users, whoever it may be. So security is part and parcel of a day-to-day activity of every administrator, and it's important that you know where your threat is coming from, be it internal or external.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, Mr. Karthik. And moving to Mr. Abdullah, and being one of the cybersecurity decision makers in your organization, and after Mr. Karthik talked about the most trending cybersecurity attacks happening now, we as IT specialists or management of cybersecurity, we can come up with methodologies or cybersecurity solutions, even if they are controls or devices. And most of the times we face like resistance with the other teams to build these controls. At the first place, there are many recommendations to build cybersecurity as a culture and maintain it as a cybersecurity mentality with different teams to make it much easier with you as a cybersecurity manager to build these controls without such a resistance. So would you please give us some advices how to build and maintain cybersecurity as a culture throughout the organization with different teams which are don't have this knowledge about cybersecurity like business or application teams?
Okay, thank you. That's a great question. So, by establishing a cybersecurity culture within your organization, it's a long process. It's not something that you could get by day one. Humans are bound to resistance. When you tell someone do this instead of this, or correct this instead of doing this way you're doing it is wrong. Especially when it comes to IT personnel. IT personnel has been programmer for 20 years. For you to jump in and say change the way you code this, change the way you do this, you'll find some sort of resistance. That's common. That's common knowledge. But where your role is describing the risks to it. Why you are changing this? Why are you requesting them to implement this? Those when they start accepting your comments, accepting your recommendations, they will be a part of you. So you try to align this not only with the IT, with all the other relevant departments. You have your compliance department, you have your risk department, and you have other departments such as the HR and finance department. So what I try to do is speak their language, right? Say for instance, let's say for example, I was to implement data loss prevention and within our organization, right? I would go to the HR and I'll talk about the salary scale or the salary scale within the organization. And I'll tell them, what if your salary scale was leaked? Or your employees know this guy has this salary and this other chief has this salary. How would they feel? They'd be like, no, I don't want this to be leaked. This is sort of a way that, okay, then this solution helps us prevent this from happening. So this is with the HR. When we go to the finance, we talk about the numbers, right? If the numbers were leaked, how much profit we made this quarter, how much we lost, how much investments are needed to be taken into consideration. So I'll speak his language also. Other than that, we have awareness sessions, awareness campaigns that's being conducted on a weekly basis and campaigns for UCCA as total, for them to be aligned with us. So building a culture is not something that you could get in day one. You'll always find resistance, but it's a matter of how you share the knowledge, how you raise their awareness, and how you adapt them to you. So they will be aligned with you and more committed than you expect from them. So after building the culture, you will find them coming to your office. And this is where I feel that the culture is well built. I feel that this is the risk. I've received this phishing email, I'm not sure. And they'll start talking to you about personal things that happen to them and how they can take care of it. So building a culture is a long process. It's not something that's going to be done by day one, but you will always face resistance. It's a matter of how to mitigate the resistance, and then hopefully you will have the successful culture implemented.
Yeah, that's completely right, and I think it's much of good luck to try to maintain this culture of cybersecurity and awareness before an actual incident happens, because and then the other teams will not be able to predict or to know how to interact with this. So, Mr. Umair, well, what do you think about maintaining cybersecurity culture in the organization and how you deal with this resistance with other teams? Please unmute. Mr. Umair, your
can you
mic
hear me
is
now?
muted.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, maintaining information security culture within the organization is not something like very easy. It takes a lot of time, and more than time, it takes a sound commitment from the management. The only way we can take the management commitment is to start writing and formulating a sound policy that is approved by the management and that is commitment from the management that goes to the users and all the employees that this is what you have to follow. Otherwise, you have to face the consequences. This is something harsh, but it is something that is supposed to be done. Then you can, it is a long cycle that we need to follow, and from the scratch and up to the implementation, and then we have to keep on testing it. After now we have a policy. Now what to do? The users are aware that, for example, if a user, all the users have signed their information security policy, or sorry, acceptable use policy, then they will say, okay, we do not have anything else. Now, provide us with some proper training regarding the security awareness. Then it comes to HR and the information security teams to collaborate together and then circulate them with some security awareness program. And the contents of the awareness program need to be consistent with the business of the organization, as well as the overall culture of the organization. For that, we need to see where the organization stands in the current scenario for their awareness level. So we have to evaluate that awareness program, and then we have to make sure to include everyone so that no one is an exception to the policy. Normally what happens, what I have also faced, is that we go and whenever we initiate the security awareness sessions with the teams, we come across a lot of challenges. The first challenge is the management says that, oh, we know all these things and we do not have enough time to, layer time for this awareness session, or we cannot leverage this much time out of our busy schedules. So that is one challenge. So nobody should be should be given any exception to the acceptable use or awareness policies, information security policies, although it is part of it. Then once the awareness is done, normally people come, they attend the awareness, and then they leave. And after 2 months, 3 months, if we do not keep reminding them of their responsibilities and their roles as part of the security awareness, they forget everything. Because if I call all of them and I ask them, okay, you have to have a strong or complex password. It is basic, like one of the topics in any security awareness training. So they will, I will demonstrate them that these are the common things that you need to follow when you are designing your password. After 2 months, they will forget. Similarly, so there are many other things. So you keep on giving them. When you change, when they have to change their passwords and they have to follow that, then they will keep reminding. Similarly, you can use multiple other scenarios that the users have to follow. Another very good example is that of phishing. Like they got the training, they know if I receive a phishing email, what needs to be done. You start your campaigns of security awareness and evaluation. You send a phishing email intentionally to all the users and evaluate the figures, that how many users have received the phishing emails and how many of them have reported. Now here is the key, that how many of the users are how many of the users feel confident to report the incidents. That is very important. In most of the organizations, like if I see someone is leaking out the information, I will say, if I report it, HR will come and ask me that, why are you reporting? How come you know about this guy leaking out the information? So it should be, so I should have a culture in my organization that encourages me to report the security breaches, to report the security incidents, so that all of the users are like they feel comfortable that, okay, if I'm reporting an incident, it will not be of anything bad to me. So we can also mitigate, we can achieve this by mitigating the negative impacts of reporting, that if someone reports the incident or any security breach, he should not be set out of it. Then we should also highlight the positive impacts of reporting, that if someone is reporting, we should encourage them. Similarly, there is normally felt anxiety in the anxiety for reporting that that we need to minimize. So we can make the reporting voluntary instead of making it mandatory. It is not something that we want the user to report, but we are not making it mandatory. So in order to achieve that, we can use some mechanisms for anonymous reporting or anonymity in reporting, so that someone who is reporting, HR or the management should not know that who has reported this, and the users will also be confident that, okay, I found something wrong, I am reporting it. And then also a very important thing, we need to communicate to the users that how the reporting portal needs to be accessible to them, and they should be the reporting should be made easy for them. The accessibility for reporting should be provided to all the users. And again, this is something that is a continuous process, that is not a one-time process. Normally the regulator, we do it normally for the to fulfill the regulatory requirements, that okay, it is recommended by the regulator, we have to fulfill the regulatory requirements, so let us conduct the security awareness once and we are done. No, we can have lengthy sessions or personal trainings for all the users once a year or twice a year. Plus we should have ongoing programs for all the users, for all the, because users are the case. Then after that we move on to IT, then for, because they are the technology team, they are working on patch management, for vulnerability management, they are the ones who have to implement the patches, to they are the ones who have to technically reduce the risk for the overall organization. So we should have a specific awareness program for them as well, so that they can also keep on improving.
Yeah, these are all great advices for you, Mr. Umair. Thank you for this. And back to Mr. Karthik, we need to hear your advice in a situation regarding this our speech about Teams resistance. Mr. Karthik, if as a security expert, if we have a situation like there is a business application that has vulnerabilities in it, and the business team needs to publish this application, and there's a big security risk in this application. You are, as a security expert, prevents this application from being published. And so, what will be your decision? Either to make the application team to sign like risk acceptance, or you escalate this risk issue to top management? Mr. Karthik?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It was an interesting question, in fact. Here, we just have to first identify what is the amount of risk involved in that security loophole. So that's really important. Even if it is going to impact a single user, the risk is going to be higher. It's just not for all users or a group of users. Even if it is for one user, it is very important that you address it. And if it is happening for one user, there are every chances it may happen for other users as well in the future. So as a security expert, I would first report it and then see how soon the development team can fix it. And then if the timeline given by the development team is not considerable, say for example, they say that we'll need like 3 weeks to fix a security issue, that's really a huge time. So it's unacceptable by any development team to fix a security issue for 3 weeks. So there is some respectable timelines for an security issue to be fixed. So if it is impacting the business, then it has to be fixed right then and there. So even if it is going to impact for one user, it has to be fixed right then and there, because most of our solutions, in fact, if you look at our Zoho portfolio, ManageEngine is part of Zoho. So we have all our solutions on cloud, and there are every chances that our data can be leaked, or our data can be stolen. So we don't allow this to happen, because we are guided by defense from the GDPR compliance. We are guided by the ISO security compliance policies and much more. So it's important that we fix some timelines for these security loopholes to be addressed. So if the timeline is acceptable to the team who has reported it, it's just not me who is reporting it, it's actually a team which reports it. So if the timeline is acceptable, we just leave it. We allow the issue to be fixed, and see, we constantly follow up with that functionality or with that application to see if it has been fixed on our applications. And if not, that's when we actually move to the higher management. So that's where we have an escalation matrix for reporting security related incidents.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mr. Karthik, for these advices.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you hear me? I think your voice now dropped.
Yeah, I can hear you well. Yeah.
Mr. Karthik?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Thanks a lot for all of these advices and
thank you.
And tips. Okay, thank you very much. Back to Mr. Abdullah, and now we were talking about dealing about these incidents and how to maintain our relationships with different teams that they are not cybersecurity. What about the third party? We are all as organizations or big companies deal with third party on all the time. So how do you guarantee that third party vendors you are dealing with or have accountability or are aware of different cybersecurity controls, and how do you prove this other than the NDA?
Well, great question. Other than the NDA, is basically on the contractual agreement. On the contractual agreement, have penalties included, or if the third party was to break certain policy or break the application security standard or any controls that you put in place, there should be a penalty on it for the third party to be liable on it. Conduct risk assessments on the third party, risk evaluations on the third party. Ensure that they're compliant with what they're stating. Say, for instance, they have a certification, ISO certification, or whatever certification within their databases, that they're implementing the best security and all of this. Conduct your assessment on it. Have a proof of concept on it, that they are conducting this. Also, have them provide their healthcare checks on their servers, or if you're outsourcing specific requirements. In Saudi Arabia, we're heavily regulated by SAMA, the Saudi Arabian Monetary Agency, on third party. If third party was outside of the country, such as for cloud hosting, we were not allowed to have it unless it's approved by SAMA. So having third parties control critical data or have access to critical data is a major issue, because if I implement top of the line security, I bring in the best SOC, the best solutions, and all of this. If I'm providing at the end my credit card information to my clients, personal information to citizens of the nation, and this is going to a third party and they don't secure it, why am I securing it in the first place? So that's a question you should ask yourself. So with third parties, you have to be securing yourself more by ensuring that they're securing themselves. So it's sort of like you're implementing cybersecurity in and cybersecurity out. Yeah. So yes, and third parties, you will see lots of cases worldwide, such as I don't want to bring in specific cases, but cases worldwide where data breaches happen, such as Walmart in the United States. The credit card company had their data and then someone stole their data. So there's lots of cases which in this scenarios that and it's done by third parties and not by the company itself. So conduct risk evaluations, have a clear contractual agreement, conduct a Iraqi chart. They're responsible, who's responsible for this, who's accountable for this, who should be consulted and who should be informed, so that each party is clear on their sole responsibility on specific tasks and who's accountable for all the other tasks related to the agreement. So with third party, you have to be extra careful before signing, conduct your risk assessment, risk evaluation, know who the vendor is, and make sure that the vendor or third party, when he says, I have this company working with me, this company working with me, contact other companies, see if they didn't really work with them. So do the good background and screening check on them before signing third-party contracts. Don't take it something simple and just agreement. Conduct your evaluations, conduct a proof of concept on it, and keep it ongoing. Don't say the first year everything went well, such as if, for example, if you have a SOC security operating center agreement, make sure they are really monitoring your systems. You can conduct a penetration test simply to find out if the SOC is really doing what they're performing to do. Is it worth the amount of money you're paying them for the security operating center to be outsourced? So this is a couple of examples.
Yeah, very perfect and useful insights from you, Mr. Abdullah. Thank you for sharing that with us. And going back to Mr. Aftab and the field of cybersecurity insurance, Mr. Aftab, welcome back. And talking about, we were talking about the resistance we are facing in the field of cybersecurity and convincing the others we are dealing with about cybersecurity as a culture. So is that the same in cybersecurity insurance? And also, we need to learn more about the cybersecurity insurance field from your experience and background, and your advices in this field for specific for SMEs and corporates. So it's I know that it's juicy questions, question filled of a lot of information. So that's why we need to learn more about you from you.
Great.
Mr. Aftab.
Thank you very much, Asma. As I said, cybersecurity, if we talk about especially that, as we know that technology rules our lives like never before. And especially in this COVID-19, we all have observed while working from home, digital communication has taken a new dimension, a new paradigm, and a new meaning with the advent of all the social media as well as working from home. And as we progress very rapidly through this digital age, and with the technological advancement, things will change as well. And we have already seen, with the advancement of Internet of Things in the new mantra, it will soon govern the way we live our lives. So these are all inevitable signs of what we consider to be a good progress. But however, while there is a bright side to technology, it also comes with an inherent threat and associated risk. So for a business owner like us, or anyone in different verticals, the reality of cyber, I should say, risk has never been more intimidating, which is today. And as we know, COVID-19 pandemic has shattered the entire economies of the world and has influenced almost all business sectors. And at this juncture, if we talk about the importance of the insurance industry's position, especially exhibiting the role as a mitigator of economic damage to the industries at large. And obviously that all comes by absorbing a heavy price to insurers in the end. So during these crises, businesses are also, adverse to face cybersecurity risk due to obvious reason, which was expressed by my fellow panelist earlier. So as a practitioner of insurance, I can recommend that there is a product which is having cyber liability insurance or cybersecurity insurance, which might be beneficial to safeguard your fiscal interest, if not reputational or elsewise. And this is a very broad term if we talk about cyber liability, and can be covering many areas. And I can give you a little bit on those with my recommendations for SMEs and corporate as we progress in the discussion.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Mr. Aftab, for this insight too. And back to dealing with the cybersecurity incident inside our organizations. And the question is for Mr. Umair. When we have a cybersecurity incident or data breach in our organization, as a security expert and one of the decision makers in your organization, how do you make sure that everyone in your team and the other teams are doing their roles as it's supposed to be? How can you measure it before a data breach can happen, Mr. Umair? Mr. Umair, you can hear us?
Hello?
Hello? Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I missed your question. So what you mean is
Yeah,
that
okay.
before a data breach can happen, what are the measures that we can take to identify an incident? This is your question?
Actually, my question is defining the rules and measuring that everyone in your team and other teams effectiveness in case of data breach. If a data breach happened, how do you make sure that everyone can do his role as is?
Fine. See, whenever there is a data breach, like it is again a responsibility. It is not a responsibility of any single team or single person who is
Sure.
working in any specific area. Although the responsibilities of multiple teams based on their roles and their functions may differ. But let us start from the stage that when an incident happens, and then where does it lead to during the whole cycle. So before the incident happens, everyone is supposed to be aware of their responsibilities in case of any disaster or any incident, that this is what we need to do. For that, you have awareness again related to your disaster recovery planning, your business continuity planning, that needs to be circulated, and each and every single individual in all the teams need to be aware that if this type of of incident occurs, we are responsible to respond in this manner. These are the steps that need to be taken. That is prior to the incident. Once the incident happens, that depends on the nature of the incident. If there is a data breach, for example, if there is a ransomware or any a virus attack or any any non-availability of data issue, then in that case, the person who comes across the incident first, he should be the first one to notify the authorities, to the to his management, or to the people who are responsible to take the measure or guide the further teams. But this reporting is the most important part of the whole incident management, because as soon as the incident happens, it needs to be reported in a timely manner. If someone does not report the incident, then it will become a bigger disaster. So this is the first stage. Then after that, once the incident is declared that there is an incident or a disaster, then it must go to the suitable people within the management to identify the people who are going to responsible to resolve the incident or the data breach. If there is, if it can be contained, the first step needs to be, the main focus needs to be, or the priority should be given to the containment rather than recovering and so on. So the teams should be mobilized accordingly, and they should be first the incident should be contained, and then the rest of the mechanisms that you need to move to DR or any other recovery mechanism needs to be adopted. That is supposed to be taken up later. But all the teams, the key is that each and every individual in every team needs to know about their responsibility, that whenever there is an incident or a data breach, these are my responsibilities that I need to follow. So all the users need to be aware of their part. Then you can contain the incidents very well in a better manner, and you can limit the loss to your organization.
Yeah, perfect, and thank you. And I think what helps us most in this step is specifically what you all mentioned in how to build cybersecurity as a culture. So I think that we are running out of time. So we will focus on the most important and coming out up to mind questions. So for Mr. Abdullah is an IT specialist or one of the decision makers in cybersecurity. Dealing with the top management is not that easy task at all. How do you convince your management if you need to buy a security control or device, but with an extra cost that out of budget? Also, speaking about dealing with management, and as our panel discussion is about risk assessment, you now build your risk assessment model and methodology, and that are output of your risk assessment activity. How do you convince your management about these results, and these results are effective? So, speaking generally about convincing and dealing with top management.
All right. So we'll start about the fun subject. I call it fun, getting the budget, because it's always ongoing back and fight with the management in order. Because cybersecurity is not something that's cheap, or something that you can get a small budget to work with. There's required solutions. There's personnel in it. So basically, I try to have it as clear as possible, right? I try to explain it to them business-wise. I don't try to bring in much technical when I'm talking to management. They're not technical people. Don't speak to them. They won't understand you. So when take for instance, let's talk about DDoS, right? Distributed denial of service. Say for instance, I want this solution to be implemented in UCA. What I would go to the top management, I would go to them, try to explain it to them in a way as if it's a handshake. I'm shaking your hand, you have 2 hands. I'm coming with you with 50 hands, you can't shake my hand. They're like, okay, so what does that mean? It's sort of like a DDoS attack. Handshakes happening, our company can't handle these much handshakes, our servers will be down. What's the BIA? What's the business impact analysis on it, Abdullah? Well, basically, if we make around 1 million per day, we will lose, if a DDoS attack was to continue for 3 to 4 days, that'll be about 8 million, for instance. And the solutions budget that I'm requiring for or requesting for is 100,000 per year. So in this way, they're sort of speaking my language. We're talking numbers, we're talking the language that they can understand. Therefore, they will support you. And when you show them the value of it, the value of the solution that you requested, might not come up the first year. I had a clear incident on this where I did request a budget for the DDoS solution. We invested in it. The investment didn't come out in the first year. Second year, we had a DDoS attack and it was mitigated. I showed the management this report and I was like, oh, the amount we spent last year with this year and the DDoS attack that happened, that could have generated a loss of 15 million Saudi riyals. So they were happy with it. So after that, they understood that I'm not just asking for a budget just because I want a budget or just because I want to bring the top of the line solutions. I'm requesting a budget to protect your confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And therefore, they will give you your commitment. Try to be precise when you're requesting your budget. Know your environment when you're asking for a budget. Don't go overboard with your budget. Just make sure that it's fit for your environment. Then you will hopefully have your budget approved, even if it's not pre-approved in the beginning of the year. And when it comes to risk and how to bring your top management when you're speaking in the risk language, I call it the risk language because not a lot of people like to talk about risk. They have a huge resistance when it comes to risk. So what we do is we define a risk methodology. We establish a clear scope, assign a business impact analysis, conduct a threat and vulnerability assessment, calculate the risks, and treat risks. With this in regard, we have a committee, a cybersecurity committee. In this committee, lots of the chiefs and lots of the high level management is involved. So when I try to implement the methodology, I discuss it with them in a language, again, that they understand. So we can establish a scope that they understand. So they're in the initial phase of risk assessment, and they will know what we will be starting out with. So when it comes to threat and vulnerabilities, when we reach that stage where we identify the threat and vulnerabilities, some of the times I'll have to breach these risks to prove to them that these are risks that are valuable, right? Say, let's take one example, a simple example. If we talk about a clear desk policy, that's a risk, and no one's focusing on it. They have papers around with passwords. Oh, go up to their offices, take those papers, read it. If there's password, I'll log in and see. Show them that this is a real risk that you should mitigate. So management, at first, they will not support you maybe, or they will not give you the commitment. But once you pass this stage, they will be the ones that's committed to your policies, and also to have compliance check in order. Compliance is very important, and to have such things as verbal warnings, and then a written letter, a warning, and going on and on with a salary deduction. So then you can start using enforcement, but just try to raise their awareness on it in the beginning, then use enforcement. Don't start out with enforcement because you will not have people that are committed with you or aligned with you if you just start out with enforcement. It's like going to them and do this, do this, do this. Nobody likes someone on top of them telling do this, do this, do this. Explain to them why, and then you'll see it going forward from there.
Yeah, that's completely right and perfect. And I think we has unfortunately exceeded our time of panel discussion. There are a lot of questions I'd like to share with you and to gain this juicy and fruitful knowledge out of your experiences. Thank you all for that. And I think our discussions went back and forth around cybersecurity awareness and our roles as IT specialists or management in cybersecurity or cybersecurity insurance field to pinpoint the cybersecurity threats and risks on a regular time with different teams and or organizations. We deal this is just to secure ourselves. I'd like to thank you again, my guest, and thank you for attending our conference today. And thank you very much for all this fruitful information. It was really added value to me myself.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen,
I believe still we have 12 minutes, it seems like.
I'm so sorry. Mr. Hasan, would you like to add something? We're really exceeding in time. We're already 8 minutes.
I believe, yeah, because that's the reason I wanted to speak about more about the cyber liability, because we all have diagnosed the issues, but we have not gone like to mitigate what are from the insurance side. As we say, the insurance is like, risk management. So that's why I have kept it in the last that I will tell you what are the things which we can help you out in such a situation where we were talking about. So it was like 140, I thought of it, you are completing. So never mind. So as I said, like to sum up, I can tell from my side, like cyber liability, as I was telling you, broad terms and can be caused by any of the followings which you guys have told. And then the area which we were talking about that we can cover, information security and privacy liability, which are important, and that even the regulatory and defense penalty, those which comes the cost, that is also can be covered. Your website, if it is, or media content, or these liability which is on your shoulder, you can cover. You can cover also the cost of crisis management or any public relation cost, that is also in the insurance. Cyber liability will be covered. Any extortion or cyber extortion losses, that also you can cover on this. And one of the options is, to buy the cyber liability, which has always been available in the market for around 10 years or so, because it was not heard before. However, most security professionals seems like unlikely to have heard of it or given that importance which exists there. So at the moment, cyber liability insurance can include all your data breach, privacy crisis, or we talked about the notification or call management, credit checking, and everything. So maybe these are the things which I wanted to tell you. This is important, and you can buy from one of your intermediary or one of your professionals who can identify and who can look into it, because all sides does not fit. Every business is different. So for many insurers and brokers also, the technicalities of information security and the details which you guys have mentioned, that will be a mystery, I should say. So people, the professionals from our side, they do the risk management proper before starting point to determine that what is the cost or expense to cover you or your business. So anyway, I won't take much time because, as you said, you are running short of time.
11 minutes overboard. I'm so sorry, Mr. Hasan. We really have to respect the time schedule of the conference as well right now.
Sure.
And, I would really like to thank, on behalf of TRESCON Global, all our eminent panelists. And thank you so much for taking out time for from your busy schedules today for joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, TRESCON.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.